Hello, everybody. My name is Tekano. I'm from South Africa. It's good to be on the show again for the second time. I'm currently in Johannesburg, South Africa, which is the major city of, one of the two provinces that has been affected by the recent occurrences or the looting that has happened. It's been wild, I must say. The whole country has been, taken back by it, and it seems like the whole world has too. I know firsthand the situation has been blown out of proportion by the media. Yes, it is something very serious and something that we've never experienced in our country's history before. But we have to remember that it's only a small portion of Gauteng province where I'm at, and that's been affected by the looting, and KwaZulu-Natal, which is where it all started. It started out retaliation from our former president's supporters. After he got arrested for contempt of court, he was up for corruption charges and was supposed to go and appear in court, and he just didn't do that. And so he got sentenced to 15 months imprisonment. And the day after he got sentenced, then we experienced, some looting in KwaZulu-Natal, the burning of trucks. And as soon as that happened, then I knew that we were in for something big. For me, it was very, very clear to me that this was a way in which to create food shortages. That was the first thing that came to my mind. And, we know the agenda, and we spoke about it in my last interview, that there would be, food shortages and water crisis. The real interesting thing is that there is a major water crisis that's happening in South Africa. Not a single word by the media. And now this is in the same province in where I live. The northern part of my province is being affected by water, where people haven't had water for, we're going on 2 weeks, over 2 weeks now. And I couldn't believe my eyes when, we drove into Soshanguve. Close to 1 million people living in Soshanguve alone. It was like, something out of, CNN that I'd never seen and never expected to see in South Africa, where, people were just carrying big containers of water, going to fill up water, buckets, whatever they can get their hands on to, contain water. This is people of all ages, kids as young as, 5 and women old as 60, in their 60s. They haven't had water for over 3 days. Humans can go, 3 days without water. After that, then, you're pretty close to bye-bye. This is not just that area. We're talking Soshanguve, we're talking Mamelodi, Atteridgeville, Olivine. These are large areas, which is, mostly black people that live there. And we're talking millions of people in those areas, and they haven't had water. So that's really interesting that nobody has covered that. Coming back to the looting, as I said, it was sparked in Natal, eventually came to Gauteng, where there's a large Zulu population. And now our former president, he is Zulu. And apparently it was the Zulu population that, were backing him and were upset about his imprisonment. And so they decided to sort of retaliate, protest, and which turned into looting, which turned into burning, which turned into just absolute mayhem over a period of, 3, 4, 5 days. What I believe is that it was allowed to happen. All of it just does not make sense. We have to remember is that we've been in lockdown. We're approaching 500 days. A lot of people have lost their jobs. Before lockdown, we've had 30% plus unemployment. So a lot of people jobless, a lot of people hungry. People did their part. I was actually surprised with the response from South Africans, knowing that they had to kind of play it safe in South Africa because of our history of protesting. Following all the rules, all the regulations. And then the so-called Delta variant came in, and apparently cases have been increasing. And so the president decided to close off Gauteng province. No movement out, moved it up to level 4 restrictions, which was pretty tight. Now, when the big looting happened, he addressed the nation again, and he extended the lockdown for another 14 days. And that's when people lost their mind. People started looting. And in one way, I can totally understand. What do they expect people to do? A lot of people have no food, they have no job. And so people went crazy. The first part of the looting started out as, people looting food. But then people were like, well, let's just take the whole thing. Let's just take whatever we can. What was surprising for me was the manner in which people behaved. It was almost like they were under a spell. No conscience, they were just destroying, and there was burning and, just unnecessary things. The burning and the way that it happened, it was geared towards a major crisis. food shortages being one, the destruction to the economy, which we know that's what they want to do. They want to put South Africa completely off limits. But a lot of the places that contribute to our tourism, they aren't affected. Cape Town and all the other provinces, people want to go on safaris and see the beauty of our country. I feel nobody wants to come and see that anymore. So that's a way in which they're going to tear down the economy. It was strategic when they burned the trucks on the N3. So the N3 is a major highway which moves all goods that come in from the rest of the world and distribute it to South Africa, and all the other neighboring countries have all been affected. And so I knew that was strategic in terms of creating a food shortage. We know that that's what they want to do. What I feel is that very soon we're going to see another crisis happening. A natural disaster of some sort, whether it would be a major storm that destroy a lot of crops, or drought, or an earthquake, a natural disaster that will then create even more food shortages and put the country into even more dire situation. Millions of people without food, without water, and that will lead to the death of millions of people. What we're seeing is warfare, and I believe this has been orchestrated over many years. I mean, we're talking decades. This situation was allowed to happen. If we look at the areas that were affected by this looting, let's take Jabulani Mall, for example, and I go there often because I have family in that region. The police station is right across from the mall. Meadowlands, the police station is also right across from the mall. We have Deep Loot Square, and the police station is about 1 kilometer away. Soweto, which is the region where a lot of the looting happened, the police stations are in close proximity to the malls and all the places in which we looted. And yet the media were there days before, there was any type of police intervention. So you're telling me the media will go there and broadcast to the world right across from the police station? That's one of the reasons on which I say it's been allowed to happen, to create this disaster. Eventually, our president came in, a few days later, and he sent in troops. It took forever for them to appear and all of this, and there was still the looting, and eventually the troops arrived on the ground. I think what we're going to be seeing is that we're going to be seeing a military state, and we're going to see people asking for it. They create the disaster, they create the panic, all the fear, all of that, and then they're the ones who are giving the solution. More surveillance. Who are you? Where are you going? Show your ID. Have you been vaccinated? It'll start to become mandatory. We'll see the military now, administering vaccinations. If you're familiar with 2030 and, Agenda 21, this just seems like the perfect move. It's scary for everybody, I've had phone calls and, messages from people from all over the world like, oh, what's going on? This and that. Is it really that bad? The whole country is on fire. I'm like, whoa. Let's take a breather over here. First of all, it's a portion of 2 provinces. I saw one of the news where the guy's like, South Africa is burning and the fire is moving closer and closer. I'm like, whoa. I saw a video that you sent me on Max Egan and some of the videos, and I'm just like, whoa, I know that video. And that one video has actually been used about 3 or 4 times over the past year as propaganda. And one of the videos is actually a fake video. It's not real. The way in which it was actually shot, with people just standing around while gunshots are kind of going off, is false. So the question is, who is this person that's actually putting it out? Who are they really working for? Has the truth movement been hijacked? Has the truth movement been hijacked? What agenda do they have? What are they trying to achieve? What's also been really interesting is that with the hard lockdown last year, in the province in which all the looting happened, there was 60 schools that burnt down. Now that, should leave a lot of people with questions. And the thing is that that's completely been wiped out from the media. What was also interesting is that in the looting, the people that trigger it are the youth. people who should be in school. They would gather in groups, and then all of a sudden they're going in first and they're causing the mayhem. They're young, they fit, they have oomph. Their parents don't have jobs, and so it gives them something else to do. Like, actually, that's something else to do as opposed to just hanging out on the street doing nothing, not going to school. And so that almost seems like something strategically done. And that's why I say it's been orchestrated. I guess it's the same in America. There's been a big drug problem with heroin. In South Africa, there's a very lethal drug called nyauber. Once you take a hit of it, once you use it, there's almost no going back. It will completely not just destroy that individual, but that individual will destroy their family. Our youth has been destroyed. When we go back into our history and we see who stood up and, stuck it to the man and created the change, it was our youth. In June 16, 1976, they started the uprisings and the protests. It was the youth that did it. I feel that there's been a big dismantling of that power from the youth. We saw it, though, that when they come together within these riots, they're extremely powerful. They had to make sure that they flipped that it won't be done in a way in which they would fight for freedom. With Black Lives Matter movement, the whole, Antifa and the burning, it was the youth that really, went in and did it. The same type of thing that we're seeing here in South Africa. I feel like the policies, the solutions will affect us for the next 10 years, 10, 20 years, 30 years. Just as we saw with 9/11 in America, there was policies, all of a sudden, they're invading a foreign country and they still haven't left, and there's still warfare there, and they're still ripping up the resources in those countries, and there's still bloodshed that's still going on. And I think what will happen here will be the same. Why were they so slow to respond to the situation? They could have stopped it, but they didn't want to stop it. They wanted the destruction of property to create even bigger gap between the rich and the poor. Eventually, maybe see some type of reset. Everybody will be in such a dire situation, economy smashed, and they'll be like, all right, it's time for, build back better. In order to be in the new system, you need to be being vaccinated. You need to have, follow and abide by this. And you pretty much need to bow down to the beast. People have to realize that COVID didn't put us into a lockdown. It was corrupt politicians and our governments, put us into a lockdown. The virus didn't say, all right, I'm locking you guys up for 21 days, and that 21 days will become 500 days. Our president, I think the second or third announcement that he made, and his words was like, life will never be the same again, which meant that they weren't trying to fix it at all. The fear has been pushed onto us in every aspect of our lives. Anyone that is fear, you need to walk into the opposite direction. We need to walk and connect back to God. I encourage people to reject the fear. It's really time for prayer now. Connect to the One Most High. And once you do that, we can act in ways which are not detrimental to us and to the future generations. It is a spiritual war. Churches have been closed. People can't hear the word of God. Because of that, we see the type of behavior that we've witnessed. I kneel down and pray to God every night before I sleep and every morning. It's all in His hands. And we have to trust in Him.